Well, hello, everybody, once again to Between Two Beths. I am Beth M, and today we're going to be talking about change starts in our thoughts. In other words, the smallest thought can change the hardest season. As I said, I am Beth M, and I am a champion for the midlife caregiver, having been through 2 seasons of caregiving myself, or been the caregiver twice myself. I love helping women now renew their energy and deal with burnout and all of those things, anxiety and guilt and grief that go along with caregiving by helping them take care of themselves and redefine self-care as something that is a source for making caregiving sustainable, as well as helping them not lose their own health during the season, because that is one of the biggest challenges for caregivers. And my colleague, I am with Beth Y today. As always, we are both named Beth. And so I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself today.
Thank you, Beth. The work you do is admirable. We all know that you have to take care of yourself to take care of others. And so you helping guide caregivers through that process is a gift for them. So
Thank you.
I am Beth White. I am located in the greater Baltimore, Washington area. I'm a certified life coach, transition specialist, and I'm accredited by the International Coaching Federation. So I am a widow since November 2019. My husband passed away on my birthday. So what I do is I help people going through major life changes, and I specialize in helping midlife widowed people move from merely existing to actually living again.
Mm.
There's one caveat I want to put out there for anybody listening to this is that even though we touch on things, feelings, emotions, etc., and those are all very important. We all have them. Is that we are coaches. We are not therapists. We're not mental health professionals. So where our space is that we help you from this point forward. So we are looking forward, whereas mental health professionals, they deal with trauma and the past. So with that, I will hand it back over to Beth.
Well, thank you, Beth. And I'm so happy for all the women who will be able to work with you and get that feeling of life back after so many things have changed for them. I can't imagine what that's like. I can't, because I am married still. So, anyways, the smallest thought can change the hardest season. So Beth and I agreed on this, in that, not that we disagree on a lot of other things, but we don't talk about what we're going to talk about before we get together. That's kind of what I meant. That this is a mindset issue. This is mindset thoughts. That's what starts and is at the foundation of our actions and how we feel about things and how we move into a day. So I thought I'd start out by giving an example of a thought that a lot of caregivers have, and possibly anybody else would have that just has a busy schedule. Take it from thought, having this thought and what that kind of feels like as a thought, and how that would result in certain actions. And then a more positive thought along those same lines and doing the same thing. And then we're going to talk a little about that and throw that back and forth and talk about mindset and things like that. So the first thought I really felt was important to say was, I should be able to handle this. Now, how many women haven't said that to themselves? I should be able to handle this. So that brings up a responsibility, a strength, right? A feeling maybe of not being able to be weak, even. And I should be able to be a good caregiver. This would make me a good caregiver. And some of the actions that a thought like that might bring would be pushing yourself, even when you're tired. Maybe not asking for help because you should be able to handle something. saying yes when you maybe would rather say no, and minimizing your own needs. Maybe a lack of awareness of your own needs, but not even as much awareness, but you might be aware of them and think, okay, well, I should be able to handle this, so I'm going to ignore my own needs. So that's that one thought and how what that might look like through the from the thought to the action. Well, how about this thought? I'm doing the best I can with what I have today. So that actually acknowledges reality. I'm doing the best I can with what I have today. It actually has some compassion um, in it. And what that thought might lead to as far as action is that you might pause before you say yes every time someone asks something. You might not push through to exhaustion. You might take a nap. You're doing your best, so you might step back a little. Um, it actually is a response versus a reaction. And yeah, and asking for help a little sooner. So Beth, when we look at two seemingly different thoughts, kind of on the same level, right? I should be able to handle this, or I'm doing the best I can, right? One is a bit more negative, one is a bit in a more positive way. And it shows kind of what actions stem from that. Where do you think that fits in? Where do you go from there with this thought of the mindset issue piece?
Um, well, yeah, I think, change absolutely begins internally before it shows externally. Your mindset shapes your decisions, your habits, and your outcomes. Some of the things that you said as you were giving those examples um, are, you know, you can't change what you don't notice, right? So you said, how would it, excuse me, frog in my throat. How would it feel if I looked at it this way, right?
Yes.
So pay attention to that self-talk and recurring beliefs, and then ask yourself, are my thoughts helping me grow or holding me back? And then when you do that, identify thoughts that are, holding you back and challenge them with the
Yes.
evidence and the truth and replace them with those empowering beliefs. I am learning, I can improve, I am capable, I am good enough.
Yes. Absolutely. Um, that reminds me of, well, first of all, it reminds me of the fact that just because we have a thought doesn't mean it's true. Just because this thing has popped into our mind, whether someone else has said it or we've said it or we heard it on a podcast or whatever, it doesn't mean it's true. So there are three questions when a thought comes into my mind that I'm questioning or I'm wondering about. There are three things that I ask myself. First of all, is it true? And there are a lot of thoughts that we have every day that aren't true. And as caregivers and as widows, having gone through a real struggle and going through a real season, some of the thoughts, a lot of the thoughts that we have are going to be not true. The second is it helpful, right? Is it helping, like Beth said, move us forward? Is it, or is it causing us to be stuck? Is it causing us to feel depressed or whatever? And the third I like the most is it kind? So in other words, would I say this to Beth? Would I say to Beth, you should really be doing more, right? Which is what I said. I said to myself, right? And when you think about it, you think, of course, I wouldn't say that to my friend, but we say it to ourselves. And I think those are the real telling situations, right? We get in, it's like, oh boy, that's how I know I really need to take care of my self-talk. What do you think about that, Beth?
Well, it's something that really resonated with me. You were using the word true, right? And so, a foundation principle in coaching, at least in my coach training program, one that was actually one of my favorites. And there were many of them.
Yeah.
Um, but the foundation principle was is it true, little t, true,
Mhm.
or is it truth?
Yeah.
So capital T. And so that's a good question to ask of yourself. So it may be true to you, but it may not be a truth.
Absolutely.
Um, so when you have those thoughts, then you start realizing you can control what you can control. And you may not control the circumstances, but
Mhm.
you can control your responses. And you use the term then becomes a response versus a reaction, right? So that's when that mindset shift can turn obstacles into opportunities.
Oh, wow.
And that resilience starts in your mind. So saying that, those small thoughts lead to big changes. It shifts your perspective. It um, increases motivation,
Yes.
right? What I can do. All
Yes.
right. So that's a more positive spin, right? And in
Absolutely.
coaching, there's something known as energetic engagement. And if you close your eyes and you visualize a linear line,
Mhm.
right? And on the left is the least engaged, and on the right is where you're most engaged. And obviously, when you're more engaged, there's more action, there's more result.
Yes.
And when you change that shift, your mindset perspective from one of more negativity to positivity, it raises your energy level. So I'll
Yeah.
hand that back over to you.
Absolutely, Beth. And you know what I was thinking is, as caregivers and as women who have gone through such a loss as Beth Y and those she talks to, um, the women that she talks to, we all need that positivity. We all need that push forward as opposed to that feeling like we're on a slippery slope going back down. So when we are encouraged and feel like we are moving forward and it is okay, we are going to be number one, a better caregiver. The person on the other end of our care is going to be cared for in a more compassionate, better way. We're taking care of ourselves then too. So we're actually being compassionate to ourselves and doing what we can. I'm not saying everything the same because it's not the same, but what we can for ourselves as well. And so then for your situation, Beth, and the ladies that you speak to, it's saying, okay, I'm here and it was hard and it is hard, but I want more life. I want to get some of that back, or I want to learn to live again, type of thing. So it's just those thoughts just make those hard seasons just a little more survivable, if that's a word.
It's a good word. If it gets the concept across, um, and
Absolutely.
that's a and I'll use this as a learning experience, that's a positive thought, right? So whatever that positive thought looks like, that's yours. And if it works for you, own it.
Yes.
These little habits of positive thinking, the more we do it, the more we enforce it, we
Yeah.
actually rewire our brains.
Yep.
As we surround ourselves with these positive influences, um, you know, and again, as we're going through these seasons um, that aren't the brightest seasons we'll be
Mhm.
in our life, be mindful of things like media, conversations, and
Yes.
relationships.
That's a good point.
Protect this mental space, one of your greatest assets. And so
Yes.
you've heard Beth mention quite a few things in this conversation. She's talked about thoughts, emotions, actions, um, etc. So I will um, impart some thoughts to take away from this episode. Thoughts create feelings.
Mm.
How did I raise my hand? I'm sorry about that.
That's
Anybody watching?
okay.
Here, can I talk, please? No, just kidding. Live streaming at its best. Okay. Thoughts create feelings. Feelings influence behavior, and then behavior produces results. Change the first step to change the outcome. That's the power of choice. So with that, I'll take it or hand it back over to you.
Well, that was again a great way to wrap it up, because it is true. We are not, our thoughts, actions, behaviors, all of that stuff are all connected. They can't be separated. So when we focus on our thoughts and changing them, or talking to someone like Beth or myself or a trusted friend or something to help us through a thought that we're having, it's going to change everything downstream. So, Beth, once again, thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure getting together and chatting. I learned so much. I think we think we're doing a service for others, and I think I'm actually getting just as much help and that from you. And in talking through things, it we've both been through difficult seasons. It's kind of therapeutic for us too, don't you think?
Yeah, and I echo the same thing. I learn as much from these conversations, and I welcome any feedback, input.
Yes,
You can reach out to me, just give me your thoughts, or if you want to have discussions, I'm sure Beth would welcome hearing from you, as would I. So
absolutely.
with that, I think this is a wrap.
It is. Okay,
All right.
bye
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Bye bye.